Hello, everyone to Forest Focus, a special guest for the podcast today as we speak to one of the Reds' first team players to discuss the season for the team in the Premier League, as well as Mental Health Awareness Week across the UK. So with that in mind, delighted to be joined by Forest Community Champion in Harry Toffolo. Harry, how are you doing?
Fantastic. Thank you very much for having me.
No, great to have you with us. We were just saying before we started recording, you've just been rained on, which I don't know. I'm sure all footballers hate, even though you have to play in games in that sort of weather periodically. But you've been doing a community event. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's an initiative by the Premier League to basically the football club have got involved as well. To walk 200 miles this week for mental health awareness. There's been a lot of walking been going on all week, as you can imagine, and it was today was the day for me to come down with the Tricky Hub and other members of the public who have grown the strength to be able to come down to the City Ground today to have a walk. We did a mile around the pitch. It was roughly about 5 laps, albeit we were getting absolutely rained on, but it was all worth it for a great cause. And to be able to be a part of such an initiative that the Premier League do, but that's something that Nottingham Forest is driving within their community, is something that is extremely humbling.
Why is it so important for you to be part of it? Like you are the community champion for the club, and I think you've been community champion at other clubs you played for. So why is it so important for you to get involved?
It's massive. I think I've been an ambassador for the Tricky Hub and the community in general. If I am not seen doing these events, I'm a believer of actions speak louder than words. So to come down here to show that there's a face and there's a willingness to help these people who are struggling or are now on the right path in their lives is fantastic. And to be here today to show them a bit of what we do on a match day, seeing the dressing room. It's the first time I saw the museum today, which was incredible. So if you get the chance, definitely go down and see it. And then, walk around the pitch, asking lots of questions, asking about their lives, explaining a bit about my life. But I like to more listen to others when it comes to that sort of stuff. So it's been a fantastic hour or so, and I've really enjoyed it.
We're coming to the end of the season, and I guess has it been a bit of a whirlwind for you? You go back to July with your betting charges, that gets resolved. You don't know what your future with the team is for quite a while. Then you end up scoring a Premier League goal. You play a lot of games, and it feels like you've had a successful season. Does it feel like you've lived kind of a lifetime in the last 9 or 10 months?
Yeah, it's been. I can't really put it into words, and I'm extremely grateful for everything that's happened over the past, like you said, 10 months of the season. And at the time, Steve Cooper was the manager, and the way he treated me with Ross Wilson and the hierarchy of Mr. Marinakis and his family was incredible, and they stuck by me in probably the toughest moment of my life. I won't go into it because it's not about that, but it was now about the comeback for me, and it was very much, how am I going to bounce back from this? How am I going to put such a bad situation into a good light and try and inspire others? I thought the best way to do that is on the pitch. As being a professional footballer, I wanted to do it on the pitch first. And like you said, getting your first Premier League goal, contributing to points with assists as well and clean sheets is fantastic. But there's another side of a footballer, which is a role model for the community, somebody that should stand out and have that willingness to help. And it's a role that, like you said, I've had it with clubs before, but it's a role that I see fit. You perform on the pitch, you perform off the pitch, and I think you give yourself and you give the fans some great memories. And I'm extremely grateful for also the fans sticking by me, to be honest, because I remember times, and I went on social media near the start of all the betting thing, and I completely come off it for a while because if she reading stuff and it's very normal with the way social media is, that there's a lot of banter or jokes made, and subsequently I've now been able to take everything with a pinch of salt, not look at anything really in too much detail, but also make players in the current team, if they're going through a tricky situation off the pitch or on the pitch, to try and educate them and be that person within the dressing room that to say, basically put my arm around them and say, I've been there. I know what it's like. And for me to have that role on and off the pitch and to be recognised in both is fantastic.
I will come back to the fans shortly. Just a couple of follow-ups there from what you were saying. Has there been an evolution around mental health in the game? You've been a pro for 10 years or so? Has it changed a lot within the dressing room?
Yeah, massive. And I think there's now sports psychologists that are a lot more accessible, which is massive. Every club, Premier League club, have got them. Not every, but I couldn't say every, but probably 99% of clubs in the Premier League will have them. And it's so important. A lot of players use them outside of football. I think agencies are now finding that they don't understand. Some of them obviously haven't played football to the highest level, so they don't understand the other side of it. So they're now employing people to come and help, and it's massive. And I see it as a player that's been through it, a player that doesn't lean on that, but also I basically want to encourage people to talk in football because it's a very hostile atmosphere. I've been there when you've been on loan and you're not feeling welcome at a club. I've been there on a permanent at clubs where you don't feel welcome. And that's the biggest thing I felt about this football club is it's not only welcome me, it's welcome my family with open arms. And it's something that probably when I signed here, it was obviously difficult losing the playoff final against Forest. But when I had such a massive club like this come up and when I had a phone call from my agent, it was very much, I need to do this. I want to be a part of what Mr. Marinakis and his family are doing. And it's something that they keep on adding, and he's a fantastic custodian of the football club and someone that's really driving everything forward on and off the pitch.
Just lastly, on the mental health side of things, I guess no one gets through struggles on their own. What was your support network, and what would you say? What would your message be if anyone's watching this and they're struggling? What would you say to them?
The biggest thing for me, obviously, I'm talking as a man in this situation, as a bloke, and I can't obviously go into too much detail, but it's quite universal. But I think the biggest thing for me is talking, and it's the hardest thing to do, and it's such an easy and cliche thing to say, "Oh, just talk." And I think the more and more I've come to these groups and I've spoke to more and more people, I deal with a lot of people on social media every day I speak to, and it's something that I try and dedicate a bit of my time in a day to ask people how they are. And if there's someone that messages me, which I've had quite a lot, obviously with my story going viral, really, I still get them now, messages on Instagram, on Twitter, of people just asking for help. And there was one recently I reached out to a fan on social media, and it was very much, I'd rather have done it in private, but I couldn't do it because I didn't follow him. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on that behind closed doors that I don't really want people to go, "Oh, look, he's making a song and dance." There's a lot of stuff that goes on, and it's important for myself, who's been in that position, and having a support base of my family is a big one, but not everyone has family. So I can't just sit idle. My family, I'm very fortunate to be able to have that. Fortunate to have a psychologist at the football club, which is something not very accessible to people. So that's why groups like Bottled Up Blokes in Hucknall, which I first went to, the Tricky to Talk hub here at the football club, and what they're trying to do is fantastic. And these are platforms where people can really, really open up, not feel awkward coming by themselves. I think the big one, I was speaking to a few people out there today, and they felt it was a struggle to come by themselves, but they were here, and it was very much giving you the encouragement. No, you've done it. You've already made that first step of talking, and also probably just taking those first steps to come into the club. So it's extremely important for myself so they can see a face. So it's not just all talk on social media and it's everything like that. You can actually see somebody in their presence that's willingness to help.
One question around the fans I wanted to ask. At the game on Saturday, when you came on, they all chanted your song, and you get that away ground quite a lot, but this, home ground, for the whole ground to be chanting your song, it was a great atmosphere because we, touch words, have stayed up. What's it like for you when you hear that? And a sub question, does it get stuck in your head?
It was incredible. I was almost, this is where we talk about the last 10 months. If you'd have said to me 10 months ago, I'd have experienced that and my family would have experienced that, I'd probably laughed in your face and thought, no chance. And it just shows you how far I've come as a person and as I've come as a footballer for this football club. And for me to experience something so incredible is something that my son's 7, my eldest, and he's still talking about it now. He said, "Dad, when the whole crowd was singing your song," and for me, that means the more in a way, because if my kids are recognising their dad is excelling, and it's fantastic. And long may it continue. It was extremely humbling and something that now I owe it to them to make sure we put performances.
I wanted to ask you a little bit around how the season's gone for the team. We talk a lot on this podcast around hopes and expectations. When we went back to the start of the season, we were saying, it'd be amazing if we could be, 12th where Palace are, and ultimately we haven't quite got to that level. As winners and competitors in the dressing room, was that what you were hoping for, and how do you think it's panned out overall? Because staying in the Premier League is still a big achievement, I think.
Absolutely. I think the people that have never played in it, and I was probably naive like that 2 years ago, that thinking, it's an extremely difficult league where one error is a goal, one lack of judgment is a goal, and it's the level you're at. And that's why I think we have to take a lot of, obviously the job's not done yet. It's very close to being done, but it's almost the second season's the hardest, because the first one you come in with the shock factor and nobody knows how to deal with you, and the second season's the big one. Can you stay in the league? Obviously, we know as professionals we wanted to finish higher in the division. We've got the quality in the squad. But I'm not very much one to make excuses. But at times we felt we've had not the rub of the green, but at times we've also caused that. So it swings and roundabouts. It's a long season. We're 37 games done now, one to go, with a lot of cup games in between and a lot of dramas. And it's probably why we love the game. And I think it's something that we wouldn't want to take away. Yes, for our blood pressure, we'd love it to be a lot less, but it's something that's what we do. It's what living's all about, is testing yourself and pushing yourself. And that's, I look back at the season with great fondness. Yes, there was dark times, and when we lost a few on the bounce, which is not as professional as we want to do, but it's about how we came back from that, how we got ourselves in this position. Dealt with a bad hand with the financial fair play. So we've dealt with. So if we didn't have that over our heads, we'd be very much safe now, not going into the game last week with any pressure at all. And I'm sure this conversation will be very different. So it's just the way the football goes, and I think that's why we love it. But we know as professionals, next season, if we get the opportunity, getting the job done on Sunday, we need to be at it and make sure as a football club, which I'm sure we are, with all the work going on behind the scenes, is that we'll be moving up the table, which is what the ownership want.
Did you, as a group, watch the Luton game, the results at Luton and Burnley last week, and follow it or not?
They were aware, because obviously the manager is very strict on, we take care of ourselves, and rightly so. And building up to this game on the weekend, it's not done. And the manager's been highly professional. He's pushed us to the limit so far this week, is what you'd expect. Nothing's done, nothing's complete. So it's a big respect for him for that, for sure. But obviously it's all human beings. We're going to see the scores, and I think it was pretty obvious as well when we were warming up and they started playing the certain song on the tannoy. We all started to get a bit of a, okay, come on, let's go into this game with more of a freedom to play the way we want to play, because I'm sure if the results went different, that game would have been a lot different in terms of the feel around the place.
A lot of games that I've come away from this season, it's felt like you've played well. You probably should have got a better result. I bet you never want to see the score 3-2 again unless it's in your favour. Is there a feeling in the dressing room that it's been like that as well?
We've had many a time where we've been sat in that dressing room going, we've done really well, or we've been undone by an error, or it could be an error on our side, could be an error with the officiating, could be an error in anything. But we've done really well today. And I think the manager's been really, really good with that in terms of the week, letting us know that we've done well. Obviously, we don't want to lose a football match. And when you're losing 3-2, and it became a bit of a habit at times, and we don't want that. But I'm a believer of the process and doing it every single day. And that's how I've got my life back on track, my career back on track, by doing that process. And it's very much, if you've got 25 players in a dressing room doing that along with the management team, it's gonna work itself out. I'm a believer of that. If you're doing the right thing, if you're not doing the right thing, then no, you're going to get found out. But if you're doing the right thing, I'm a believer that if you do day in, day out as a process, it will work out.
You mentioned Nuno a couple of times. It sounds like you've got a lot of respect for him, because he's not like the previous manager who was, a bit more out there as a personality. Nuno's quite reserved in the presence of fans. What's he like to work with day to day, do you think? Give us a bit of an insight if you could.
Very funny. He's a very funny person. He's got a good sense of humour. Someone that's highly intelligent, because he can speak, I've said this before, speak many languages in just a team talk alone and in a training session. So everybody knows their roles clearly. Someone that knows exactly a playing style that he wants to play, believes in his squad, believes in everyone around him. And it's something that as a player, you want to play for a manager like that, who gives you the confidence, gives you the stepping stones, give you the foundation, to make sure that you're performing at the best. And I think you've seen players, his performance is increased massively as well since he came in. And it's something as players we want to work with as many managers, but obviously not have too many changes, but work with many different types of managers. And he's someone that has definitely left a good impact on me.
Just a couple more questions before we let you go. Obviously, I'm caveating this question because it's like you're not 100% safe yet, but being positive and optimistic, you probably are. How are you feeling about next season? What are you looking to build on, and do you feel like there's the nucleus of a squad in place to take this club to where it wants to be in the next few years?
Absolutely. I think the big thing in terms of the recruitment of the football club as well has been younger players and freshening up the dressing room. And you can only imagine that these. Obviously, I'm 28 now, so I'm one of the. We do an oldies youngies group. At 28, I'm in the oldies group, which I can't believe. But no, these are players that are big players in the team as well. So they're getting more and more Premier League experience. They're becoming given more responsibility around. The big one I look at is Morgan. Morgan last season, obviously the big player, signed a big, like we bought him in, and this season he's grown into his role as one of the leaders that I've never seen anybody in such a short space of time do. And he'll probably hammer me for saying this about him, but that's just the character he is. He's very humble and wants to crack on, but he's so young. You've got Callum stepping up recently in recent weeks. You've got all these players that you would, even Murillo's come out of out of nowhere. And as players, we love playing with him, and he's only going to go on and on with all of his ability. And so you look at, I've just named 3 players there. I think the average age is about 22, 23. So it just shows you the future of this football club's in good hands. Yes, you need to add a bit of experience in there as well, definitely, because you nurture the younger players and you've been through it already because you're now older. But no, I think there's a good balance. There's a real good balance within the dressing room. You can tell that they've done their due diligence with players as well, and it's a real good place to come into work every day, and it's something that you look forward to.
Just on Murillo, out of curiosity, I heard when he rocked up, obviously he was a bit of an unknown quantity. His first couple of training sessions, I heard he was like really good, stamped his authority straight away. Was it like in that when he's first seeing training, who's this kid, and we've got a player here or not?
Yeah, I remember actually saying to Steve Cooper, I said I think he's the best passer of the ball I've ever seen. Mm. And I've been around the block. I've played in every division, obviously, but I was like, I think he's the best passer I've ever seen of the ball. And every training session, he just confirms to me he is that. And I'm glad that he's performing at such a high level on a match day as well. And the world's starting to notice him, which is fantastic, and rightly so. And a big thing, Murillo, which you touched me a lot when we did that Mother's Day, the strength of the man is that when the story about when he lost his father and his mum looked after him. And I went and spoke to him. I was like, that's just incredible. And I think there's times myself I have both my parents, and I was just like, the strength and courage you've taken to get to this point, to now be in a foreign country with his girlfriend or fiance now, I think. But yeah, he's living it. He's living his life, and he's got to make sure he's very grounded. He's got a good sense of humour, which you need to have in our dressing room to fit in. And no, he's the sky's the limit for him, and he's just a good person to have around the dressing room.
Last question. You play in the Premier League. You mentioned you've gone through all the levels. You're obviously in a highly competitive level. What's your kind of goal yourself for next season? Because there's so much competition to get in the team. Do you think that far ahead, or do you take it day by day yourself?
I'm day by day. I've realised this in my age. Football's ever changing, let alone life's ever changing, but football is more so. You could have an injured player who's out for 2 weeks, and then the physios do miraculous stuff, and he could be back in 3 days, like he could do with you as well in that situation. So I think if you start overthinking, you start worrying, it's a recipe for disaster, because you take your head off eye off the game, and yeah, for me, it's a controllable. It's such a cliche, and I'm not full of these cliches, don't worry, but it's so true. Control what I can control, and that's just performing to my very best every single day. And it's not my decision who picks the team, it's the manager's, and you have to respect that, whatever he does each week. And if you're not in it next week, go work harder. And if you're in it, go keep the shirt. So that's basically my motto.
Pleasure to have you with us, Harry. Thanks very much. I'm sure all the fans would wish you luck for Burnley, but yeah, thanks very much, and great work in the community side of it as well.
Thank you.
Thanks to Harry for his time. Lovely bloke. I know being a nice guy isn't a precursor to being a Premier League footballer, or a qualifier, I should say, but I do think there's room for people like him in the dressing room. Maybe, obviously he's got a battle to get in the starting 11 next season with Olarena's form, who we hope is here. And I've just seen just reading an article linking us with Kostas Tsimikas, the Liverpool left back, who good player, takes a great set piece, and is a former Olympiacos player. So maybe it's a bit of 2 and 2 together makes 5. But the transfer rumour mill has started already, and we'll keep you across that on the podcast as we come to the end of the season. Just before we go, a few quick words in gratitude for our sponsors, the Trent Navigation. Last game of the season on Sunday. They all kick off at 4 o'clock, and you can enjoy the whole day's action at the Trent Navigation. See who wins the Premier League. I think we probably know, but it'll be a good day nonetheless. And there's a little bit of European qualification action up for grabs. But fortunately, we all hope, touch wood, the relegation battle is settled. And I'm very confident we shall be in the top flight again next season, which is a lovely achievement in itself. The more I think about it, we're all a bit disappointed that we're finishing 17th, but if we'd been offered 3 seasons at least of Premier League football after getting promotion or being bottom of the league when Steve Cooper was appointed, then I'm sure we'd all have taken it. And as Harry said, I do think I agree that there is the building blocks of a good squad in place. So yeah, looking forward to next season already. Before we get to that, we will be having lots more stuff on the podcast, and it will be a busy week next week still. More details on that to follow. If you haven't already, do us a favor, hit like on this video. I know I do this little script every video, but it does help spread the word. Do subscribe to us as well. Try and become a channel member if you can. Times are tough, I know, but it's a lovely little community. And give us a good review on iTunes. Right, we shall be back tomorrow with the opposition preview with Matt Scrafton, a reporter who covers Burnley. Get some insight on them. Like I said on Thursday's podcast, I feel like I've seen the least of them out of any club in the Premier League. So it's good to get his take around what's gone wrong this season. Is it all just down to the playing out from the back and not being suited to, or not having the quality to execute that in the Premier League? So that's an interesting chat. Then on Sunday, we've got the post-match show, final game of the season. Do join us for that. Then we'll start taking stock on Monday with Gary and Emily and perhaps one of the other regulars. That's on Monday morning. And then Tuesday and Wednesday, we'll have a bit of a debrief, hopefully with the fan regulars and also a couple of the former players. So, it's going to be a busy one. We'll also hear from Carly Davis, the Forest women's manager, and then maybe we'll wind down a little bit for a couple of weeks. I don't know. But there's always something to talk about with Forest. So very grateful to Harry for his company. Great to have one of the current first team players on the podcast. Hope you enjoyed that. Have a good day, everyone, and we shall see you soon.